You might have heard about the Twitter hack that happened last month, but let's take a few minutes to dive into the details and hopefully learn a couple things from their mistakes. So now that the dust has settled a little bit on this whole Twitter hack, and if you didn't hear about it, it was essentially a ring of cyber criminals that hacked directly into Twitter and were able to post on behalf of some pretty high-end accounts, including Barack Obama, Bill Gates, even Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk. And they were able to post a scam message to try to get people to send them some Bitcoin, basically saying, hey, if you send us X amount of Bitcoin, we'll double that money and send it right back to you, right? Again, you should know as a person on the internet, that sounds still too good to be true, and it usually is. But let's dive into how this could have happened. How did somebody on the outside get access to these Twitter accounts that you would think are pretty secure, right? Especially if you're a celebrity. Well, it's actually quite simple. So, as we hear time and time again, this group of cyber criminals really didn't have to do anything that technical, right? When it came to breaching Twitter, they just fooled a few employees. So there's been quite a few articles, and again, these are all alleged because Twitter hasn't come out with an official investigation yet. But based upon what we're seeing across the internet, various articles, it looks to be a case of social engineering again. And what allegedly may have happened is as simple as fake phone calls, right? So if you haven't heard by now, this ringleader, or at least a member of this hacking group, was a 17-year-old. In fact, I found a picture of him here. And here's what it looks like. 17-year-old from Florida, and was able to get into Twitter's customer service system, right? The back-end system. So how did he do that, right? How could somebody from the outside of Twitter's organization have access to this and be able to take control of someone's account and post on their behalf? Well, actually quite simple. Somehow he got the contact information for the employees at Twitter, calls them, pretending to be on behalf of their IT team, or it may be him calling the IT team of Twitter saying, hey, I forgot my credentials, I'm X such and such employee, can you reset my password or give me the username and password to our customer service system? And they did. So once he had that, he was able to get to certain high-profile accounts, reset their passwords, log in as them, and start posting away. That's really what he did, right? So again, we talk about this time and time again. Security is all about layers. So what are a couple layers that we can learn from maybe that, or holes? I found another great article about, exposes some of these security holes. And when you read about some of these holes that they might have, number one, who had privileged accounts? So does Twitter just give all of their employees access to the customer service system and the ability to wipe people's passwords, get into the direct messages, post on their behalf, right? That's one question to arise. Permission based. Does the company have the right permissions for the right employees, right? That'd be number one. Number two, do they have multi-factor authentication or 2FA? We've done other videos of that, but basically what that means is if someone has the username and password for their systems and they're logging outside of the network, especially, because presumably this hacker was in Florida, right, at his home, let's say, he was able to get their credentials, log in, you would think they would have some multi-factor authentication that would not have let him do that. But the fact that he did leads me to believe they didn't have that in place. So that's a strike number two. There's a layer missing right there from security. And then last but definitely not least, what I can think off the top of my head is training, right? Either they didn't have training in place or obviously it wasn't effective because the users, or the employee in this case, was tricked into just handing out or using a password over the phone, didn't identify the person calling, didn't think it was suspicious at the time that someone's just calling to get credentials like that. So kind of questions, do they have a proper training in place? Do they have the policies in place to just be giving out username and passwords over the phone like that without knowing 100% who they're speaking to? So again, this is just my 2 cents on it from reading various articles. This 17-year-old from Florida, unfortunately, he's a criminal. He's going to be tried as an adult. He already has 30 charges against him. And I'll share with you another one here if I can pull up the article. that talks about allegedly the 17-year-old hacker already had $3 million worth of Bitcoin. So this group of hackers was known as the OG users, right, on the dark web. And they have been around claiming that they could sell you an Instagram or Twitter account that they would hack, or a username, for, in some cases, tens of thousands of dollars, right, in cryptocurrency. And let's look, if we read here, the hackers in this community are particularly skilled in social engineering, relying on the art of impersonation or tricking people, which is, again, what they seem to have done in this case. When you dig a little deeper, you can actually find, based on the federal documents here on this complaint, that part of these OG users are on these forums here bragging about how they could sell you certain names. For example, if you want to access the Twitter handle @foreign for $500, right? There's more cases of it here. They advertised that he could change email addresses tied to any Twitter account for $250. Provide direct access to accounts for $2,500 to $3,000. So they're out on these forums, typically on the dark web, asking people, hey, if you want someone's Twitter account, if you want me to change an email address on someone's Twitter account, we can do it for $250. $2,500. Obviously, it ranges, right? If someone wants a high-profile account, these hackers were already doing this. They had the ability to gain access to accounts. Now, I've read a couple other reports that said maybe they had an insider in Twitter that they were paying off for this. Again, that's just an alleged report. The investigation's still ongoing. So that was my quick breakdown, 2 cents on what this Twitter hack was, how it was perpetrated, and hopefully you've taken away a couple things that you can learn from it to implement in your business. Make sure your employees are trained, right, on cybersecurity. What does a hack look like? Sometimes it comes in through email. Sometimes, again, it could be a phone call or a voicemail, something suspicious. Make sure you have multi-factor authentication. Any key systems in your business, your email platforms, access to your data. If you have any custom customer service apps like they used here at Twitter built, try to secure that to where even if someone steals your employee's username and password, they still can't get in there without another form of authentication, right? And then have policies in place, right? Make sure that there's permissions set for the right people. Should everyone have access to do certain things, or should that be limited to a certain group just to reduce that risk, right? Again, it doesn't necessarily matter how big you are. If you're as big a company as Twitter, and we work with very small companies that have 10 employees and they go through similar attacks like this, right? As long as there's money to be made, these cyber criminals will be out there. And in this particular case, it happened to be homegrown here, domestic in the U.S., but we know there's plenty that originate from overseas. So anyhow, hope you enjoyed that breakdown. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you have your own ideas or comments below, we'd love to engage in conversation. So put those comments down below the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.